morning.
Welcome to Live Table Talk. So today's Table Talk, we're going to be talking all things fat.
Fat?
Fat.
All things fat?
I actually think it's quite unfortunate that fat is called fat, don't you?
Well, we've associated fat with being bad.
Fat. Yeah, we have this connotation that fat makes you fat, when in fact, fat doesn't make you fat. Fat is an essential, vital nutrient to life.
But what about sugar? Isn't that vital?
There is no essential sugar needed in our diet, but there is essential fats. And fats is such an interesting subject, guys. It is really, I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating, firstly, our attitude towards fat, how it's been vilified, how frightened we are of fat, how we're willing to embrace low-fat Franken foods, man-made fats, and yet these natural fats that are so healthy and packed with goodness become a source of fear. And
give us a snapshot of Franken foods.
Oh gosh, I mean trans fats and margarines, fats that are made by man to be shelf stable and to be able to be transported in humid conditions, to be spreadable, using a vegetable oil that you can spread on toast.
But what's wrong with margarine?
What's right with margarine?
It's sold everywhere. It's sold all over the world in most stores, so it can't be that bad.
Well, let's take a step back and look at what fat really is to start with, and why we need fats. I mean, I fundamentally believe that using fat as fuel is the way forward for us as humans. It's how we would have been eating many years ago, back in our hunter-gatherer days, our ancestral days of roaming the land and finding food. We would have used fat as a source of fuel.
But what is wrong essentially with margarine? Because a lot of people all over the world grew up on margarine.
Yes, I know.
I grew up on margarine.
Did you?
Yeah, I grew up on margarine, and it was so convenient. I loved the whole process of spreading it. And it's so easy to take out. And
so it is a good question. Firstly, margarine is made with vegetable oil. Now, there are different types of fat: inflammatory fats and then healthy fats. And this comes down to their chemical structure. If you have too many fats that are rich in omega-6, they become inflammatory, because omega-6, which is a type of fatty acid, one of the building blocks of fat, omega-6 drives inflammation. Omega-3 drives the anti-inflammatory process. So we want a balance of omega-3 and omega-6 in our diet. Now, if we have too many omega-6 rich oils, then it becomes inflammatory to the body. Now, if we take it a step further and have these omega-6 rich oils out of their natural state. So let's take margarine. You brought up margarine. We're taking a vegetable oil. It could be soya bean oil, it could be corn oil, sunflower seed oil. We're taking that vegetable oil and we're removing all the antioxidants, the phytonutrients, the vitamins. So firstly, it's stripped of its goodness. Then it's liquid. You can't butter your toast in the morning with vegetable oil that's devoid of all nutrients. So it's mixed with a metal catalyst, and it is processed to create this man-made product that is more like plastic. It is stable, it is spreadable, it has had flavoring added to it, it has had odor removed from it, and it has had man-made synthetic nutrients added to it to give it some goodness. So it is a man-made product that is fundamentally made from an inflammatory oil. Now, it used to be that butters and margarines were made with hydrogenated fats. That means that the liquid oil has had hydrogen added to make this man-made fat. Now, hydrogenated fats are really bad for you. And the level of hydrogenated fat permitted in food now has been massively reduced. They're not allowed to put high levels of hydrogenated fat anymore because they're bad for human health. Now, some levels of hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated fats are still allowed. So it's always important to read labels to look out for partially hydrogenated or hydrogenated fats. Personally, I just don't use margarine because I don't like vegetable oil or the
flavour of it was disgusting.
Not even that, the processing. You know that, yes, the flavour.
That as a kid, you always knew that, you know, that the convenience of using it was great, but it never tasted good.
It kind of leaves that film in your mouth from memory. I mean, I haven't had it for years and years and years and years.
Yeah.
But there are so many benefits of eating healthy, natural fats that we don't want to start looking at man-made fats that are highly processed in order to give us some fake perceived idea that these are healthier than our nutrient-rich, healthy fats. So we're looking at a classification of fats that are adding to our human health. And these fats come in all sorts of forms. They're liquid, they're solid, they are flavoured differently, they come from different...
We have a whole variety of fats.
So we thought we'd start with saturated fats. Now, saturated fats get a really bad rap. Am I right?
Yes.
Are saturated fats good for you?
No, they clog up your arteries.
Saturated fats, guys, are... So fats are classified based on their chemical composition. Now, all fats are made from fatty acids. Whether something's saturated or unsaturated relates to the presence of double bonds. That's basically what it comes down to.
What are double bonds?
So you have a fat is comprised of a chain of carbons and then a chain of hydrogens and then an acid molecule at the end, an acid group. So you can have really short chain fatty acids, medium chain or long chain. Okay? Now, the short chain fatty acids are the fatty acids that we break down really quickly. They break down, so when we eat fat, we get fatty acids, which we use for energy, and then we get the glycerin molecule. So they separate, and we use these fatty acids and the glycerin for our health. So the short chain fatty acids break down really quickly. So things like butter have something called butyric acid in, which is a short chain fatty acid. Now, we can't isolate short chain fatty acids because they taste quite unpleasant, but we can isolate medium chain fatty acids or medium chain triglycerides. Triglyceride is just the name of the group. It's 3 fatty acids. So we can isolate medium chain triglycerides. These also break down really rapidly, and they are ideal because they are very unlikely to get stored as fat, as body fat. So, for example, a coconut has medium chain, it has short chain, medium chain, and long chain fatty acids in its composition. And they all have different benefits. So, short chain fatty acids, so butyric acid, feeds the good cells in the colon, so it's really good for your digestive health. Then you have the medium chain triglycerides, like caprylic acid, which is very antibacterial, it's antiviral, it's really good for your gut health. Then you have long chain fatty acids, which don't break down so easily. However, they also have benefits to our health. They stimulate satiety hormones. So they help the body to produce a satiety hormone that triggers to your body, I've had enough to eat now. They also cause contractions of the gallbladder, so they help release bile.
Wow.
So there are important properties of each of these different short, medium, long chain fatty acids. So when you eat a saturated fat that has a different composition of these different medium, short and long chain fatty acids, you have different benefits. So when you're eating butter on your vegetables, you're more likely to feel full and have that satiety hormone released. Your gallbladder starts to contract to release the bile and access all the fat-soluble nutrients.
So when we have a fat coffee in the morning,
yes,
that's why you feel quite satisfied.
Yeah.
And you can see your morning out up to lunchtime
Absolutely.
Without any issues.
So you're having butter in yours.
Yes.
So in your butter, you will have a range of short chain. So you'll have butyric acid. That's where the word butyric came from butter. Butyric acid. You have also medium chain and long chain fatty acids in that butter. And it's the mixture of these different long chain, medium chain, short chain, that are giving you the different benefits. So it's feeding you
Right.
good gut health, it's giving you that satiety message to your
Right.
brain, it's giving you instant energy, because with short chain and medium chain, they bypass digestion, they go straight to the liver, and they produce ketones. And this is why MCT can be very handy and useful as a tool for bypassing digestion, going straight to the liver and releasing ketones into the bloodstream. So it's like rocket fuel. Ketones are the breakdown of fat, and they can pass the blood-brain barrier to fuel your brain. They are basically rocket fuel for the brain. Our brain cells love ketones as a source of fuel.
So that's the MCT.
This is basically a biohack. It's a modern way of accessing medium chain triglycerides in its purest form. And so in here you will have C8 and C10. So guys, if you've ever read the front of your MCT, you'll see it says premium C8 and C10 MCT oil. What that means is the fats in there have a chain of 8 carbons and 10 carbons. So when you read on the back of here, you have caprylic acid, capric acid and lauric acid. Lauric is a long chain. Anything up to about, they say between C6 and C12 is considered medium chain, but C12 kind of borderlines between medium and long chain. So lauric acid is kind of a long chain, but it's a very, very small amount in there. There's under 1.5%. But you also have caprylic and capric acid. Now these are medium chain triglycerides, so they have different health benefits to the body. And one of the amazing things they have is this antiviral, antibacterial effect. They also, so this is really interesting, they can help combat candida by incorporating themselves into the cell wall of candida and then exploding, which is so cool. Yeah, so this is how they destroy candida in the body.
They treat it with MCT oil?
Well, no, you when you consume medium chain triglycerides, so this is in medium chain triglycerides are in breast milk, they're in coconut, you find them in nature. This just happens to have been extracted from coconut.
Right.
You will find caprylic and capric acid in breast milk and various other products. So, for example, breast milk has this very anti-candida effect, as does coconut, and that's because these medium chain triglycerides will lodge themselves into the yeast cell wall and then implode, killing the candida. Very cool.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so cool, isn't it? So this is the explanation of your short chain, medium chain and long chain triglycerides or fatty acids, and how the chain length really starts to convey the different properties on our response to them, whether we digest them, whether they go straight to the liver, the antiviral, the antibacterial, the fullness, satiety, triggers that they have on our body, and how they all have their benefits in many ways. With saturated fats, I know you have the butter there. There's saturated fat. Now, saturated fat tends to be stable and solid at room temperature. So we're in a moderate temperature in this room. The butter, you can pick it up. It's pretty firm. It is solid at room temperature. The same with the ghee, the same with the coconut oil. These are firm fats conveyed by their chemical properties. The double bonds or lack of double bonds within these fats create this saturated or non-saturated. So when a fat is saturated, it has no double bonds. It is full. You can have single double bonds, mono unsaturated, which is an unsaturated fat, or polyunsaturated, multiple double bonds. That means there's availability in that fat to add on another hydrogen to bond. Does that make sense?
Not really. It's too sciencey. I'm just nodding my head.
So basically, saturated fats mean you can't add any more to them. They're solid, they're full.
Okay.
There's no room, there's no double bonds in there. And that gives these fats a very stable, very solid consistency and room temperature.
Yeah.
And it gives them certain properties. Their solid nature, they're also very good for cooking with. So they have what we call a high smoke point.
Yes.
Now a smoke point is The smoke point is at the point where a fat starts to release its fatty acids. So fatty acids in nature are always bonded. You don't find them free in nature. They free up in our body, but in nature they're always bonded. Now when we cook or heat a fat, the fatty acids become free and you start to see smoke. That is not good. This is when fats can become oxidized and rancid.
Yeah.
We do not want oxidized, rancid fats. So we therefore want to choose fats that are very appropriate for roasting, frying, cooking, so for lard, drizzling on our salads.
Lard being...
I'm being blinded here.
Lard being up there with the likes of,
yes,
of ghee.
So for your cooking,
and
now
butter.
Oddly, avocado oil has a very high smoke point. This is an unsaturated fat. It's a monounsaturated fat, but it has a high smoke point. So avocado oil is a really good choice for cooking with, as is coconut oil. Organic, cold pressed. Now this is a very interesting thing to look at. Labeling.
Yeah.
Can't labeling be confusing?
Yes.
Pricing, guys. You look at something in a supermarket or a health food store and you're like, £5 for olive oil, £8 for olive oil. What do I go for? Is it worth my extra £3 for buying this product?
Well, I must be getting higher quality, so I'll go for the £8.
Or do I go for the £40 olive oil? That must be better, right? You know, you look at labels and they can be really confusing.
Yeah.
So understanding what labels mean, I believe, is very, very important. I get confused with labels when I'm looking at cosmetics. I'm looking for hand soaps in the supermarket and I'm reading all these chemicals. I'm like, boom, my brain is, I don't get the cosmetic labeling. I just keep with my simple soaps now. You know, fats, coconut oil or shea butter, oil, and that's it. Because I don't know what I'm putting on my hands or face or body. Fats that you consume should be the same. Simple. So we're going to break it down for you today. Starting with olive oil. Now we spoke about smoke points. Olive oil has a smoke point of 325 degrees. So the highest being avocado oil, which is about 520, 530. Then you have coconut oil, which is high up there. Ghee, another high smoke point of about 450. And then we're coming further down the track. Walnut oil isn't bad. Olive oil is about 325. But guys, don't waste your lovely olive oil cooking it. Keep it for raw. Cook with your coconut oil, your ghee, your avocado oil. Use this raw on your salads. Now you'll see on here, it says organic, it says extra virgin, and it says cold pressed. Yes?
It does.
I love this brand, Zatoon. They are a social enterprise. They pay their farmers really well. That's a slightly separate subject. I like to really focus on where the olives are coming from as well. But in terms of what these labels mean, extra virgin, cold pressed. Extra virgin means that it is the first. It is the first picking. It represents the acidity of the olive oil. It represents how much acidity is present, whether there have been chemicals used to extract that oil from the olive. Now, when it's extra virgin, acidity is very, very low, very low. There are no chemicals used to release the oil, and it reflects the quality of the oil. So, very low acidic oils have much higher omega-3 to omega-6 ratios. So it gives a better anti-inflammatory versus inflammatory profile. You have a higher omega-3 to omega-6 content. And this is why olive oil doesn't have the same inflammatory effects as some of the other oils we're going to talk about later. Olive oil, even though it has omega-6 in it, it has a higher content of omega-3, particularly when it's extra virgin. When you have low acidity, the oil is much less likely to go rancid. It is much less likely to become oxidized, and therefore it retains all the health-giving benefits of the oil. So acidity is really a reflection, or extra virgin is a reflection of the fat profile, the purity, and how stable that fat is. So it's always a good idea to go for extra virgin olive oil and avocado oil.
Would that be the same on coconut oil then?
Yeah. Yeah, it reflects...
Because you get the same sort of labelling, don't you?
Ironically, olive oil, the olive oil industry is the only industry to set a standard in terms of extra virgin. But now other industries...
Coconut oil's now the same.
I mean, avocado oil, coconut oil will label their products, but really the olive oil industry became the first to start saying, we're setting the standard, this acidity is below 0.8,
right,
so therefore it is extra virgin. It's a reflection of the quality and the time and the care taken to produce this oil. Cold pressed reflects that no heat has been used to extract that oil, because you can extract oil from avocados, from olives, from coconut, using chemicals and heat to force the oil out of a fruit, like an olive or an avocado.
Yeah.
Or you can mechanically press it, keeping temperatures below 50 degrees and retaining all of the phytonutrients, the antioxidants, the vitamin E, all the enzymes and all the goodness in that oil, which protects the oil, because when it's in a liquid state, you want all of those antioxidants in there to stop the oil becoming rancid. And B, when you're consuming that oil, you're getting all of those benefits of the olive, of the fruit that you're consuming. So extra virgin, organic and cold pressed are really important, in my view, for finding those oils that you want to consume. And unlike a fine wine, guys, olive oil doesn't improve with age. It doesn't. You don't want to pick your oil and say, ooh, I'll keep this for a year's time. This will be nice for next Christmas. 3 to 4 months in your cupboard, in a dark, notice how this is a dark glass bottle. In a dark glass bottle, 3 to 4 months, you want to be consuming your olive oil. And drizzle it on your salads. You know, get it in, incorporate it. There are so many benefits to drinking or in consuming this particular very lovely composition of omega-3, omega-6 fatty acids in your diet. Now, I've spoken a little bit about inflammatory, anti-inflammatory, omega-6, omega-3. What does that actually mean? So we have saturated fats, then we have unsaturated fats. These are the ones with the double bonds. These are the ones that are what we would think of as being more unstable, more liquid at room temperature, more prone to becoming oxidized and rancid. Now, under this unsaturated heading, you have monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. So monounsaturated means you have one double bond. And these are things like your avocado oil, your olive oil, what else? Things like macadamia nut oil. Then you have your polyunsaturated fats. Now, these are a very special group of fats because they are essential fatty acids. They're highly unstable. They have multiple double bonds, and they again are named after the number of carbons present. So omega-3 has 3 carbons, omega-6 has 6 carbons.
Right.
Omega-3 and omega-6 are these two groups of polyunsaturated fats that are essential to health. So when we talk about why we need fats, as we did at the beginning, we need fats for multiple reasons. All of the cells in our membrane, all of the cells in our body are surrounded by a phospholipid membrane, a membrane made of
fat.
Long chain fatty acids make up 50% of that membrane. Again, you need long chain fatty acids. Your body can make long chain fatty acids, but they cannot make essential fatty acids, omega-3s. Now, if you're not consuming omega-3s, you're not getting them into your brain, into your cells. So the phospholipid membrane, the membrane of the cells, are made up of saturated fat, long chain fatty acids. They're made up of omega-3, omega-6 and cholesterol. And if we're not consuming these particular fats, particularly our essential fatty acids, we cannot make them ourselves. We can make cholesterol, we can make saturated fat, we can't make our essential fatty or omega-6. Most of us get enough omega-6 into our diet because it's in grains.
Yeah.
It's in nuts, it's in seeds, it's in rapeseed oil, vegetable oil. We get a lot of it. We get too much omega-6. We should have a ratio in an ideal world of about 1 to 1, 3 to 6. Have a guess what the ratio is in the standard American diet.
20 to 1.
Yeah, it is 20 to 1.
20 to 1.
20 omega-6 to 1 omega-3. That is driving inflammation. That is literally pumping out inflammation.
So when you go to the supermarket, some of you may have seen on the shelves when you buy your eggs, it has the fancy fonts of full of omega-6, full of omega-3.
Yes.
Some of them just say full of omega-6. Chickens, full of omega-6.
Yeah.
I used to buy a lot of chickens because it just had full of omega-6. Well, that must be good. I'm buying that. Corn-fed chicken used to be a high favourite. And they were the ones actually full of omega-6.
Yeah.
Not really understanding that the omega-6
that you're already full of omega-6
represents an inflammatory omega.
And it's actually that mismatch that creates this inflammation, and this is why there are certain fats like rapeseed oil, also called canola oil, guys. You might have seen that online. In America they call it canola oil or canola oil. And that has a very high omega-6 content. It does have some omega-3, but it's high in omega-6. It's one of the highest.
Yeah. What's canola oil used for?
Rapeseed oil is used predominantly in mayonnaise. So if you look at the back of Hellmann's, you'll see rapeseed oil. So this is why those fats are inflammatory, because they are driving that pro-inflammatory response, that switching on of our inflammatory reaction, versus omega-3, which dampens it down.
Yeah.
And there's that mismatch, and this is why, where's my avocado oil? It's around here somewhere. My avo mayo. So this is why a mayonnaise like this, which is full of avocado oil instead of rapeseed oil, has a different effect on the body. So your inflammatory fats are rapeseed or canola oil, sunflower seed oil. Again, it's inflammatory because of the high omega-6. Also, these oils tend to be highly processed. Vegetable oil, deep fat frying. I mean, when you heat and reheat and reheat and reheat oil like they do for deep fat frying in fish and chip shops and fast food, it is incredibly destabilizing for that fat, and it is creating a rancid, oxidized fat, which then soaks into your food and introduces all these free radicals into your body.
Wow.
It is highly inflammatory and damaging. Highly
addictive.
Well, that's a whole different matter. That's the wheat and the gluten that tends to be in batter, and
so that's a combination. You've been hit with a combination of inflammatory foods.
Yes, but really, the damaging effects of that really high heat fat, heated to a very high temperature, highly processed, and very high in omega-6. That combination it's a food to avoid. You want to try and... It's actually one of the biggest influxes of free radicals and oxidants to the body is deep fat fried food and highly processed foods.
This is where the labeling is so important.
Yeah.
We go into a supermarket and you have a whole shelf full of oils and, oils. What do I buy? As a man, I think a lot of men out there could agree, you go in and the wife has said, don't forget to buy oil. It's very difficult because they all look the same.
Yes. And this is when knowing, okay, where is it important to buy certain fats? For example, flaxseed. Okay, flaxseed is super healthy. It is a very healthy, high composition of omega-6, but a slightly different omega-3, but a different composition of omega-3 to fish. So you have omega-3 that is important for brain health, eye health, reproductive health. These are your DHA and EPA. Then you have plant-based omegas called ALA. Now we as humans can convert ALA into DHA and EPA, the human intelligent fats. We don't know how much we convert. That's questionable. It's always a good idea to try and get a direct source of EPA and DHA through
Fish
algae
oils.
oil. If you're vegan or vegetarian, algae oil, great source of DHA, EPA. If you're not, fish oils, wild Alaskan, a fantastic source of omega-3, intelligent omega-3 fats that are anti-inflammatory and that are going to help balance out your 6-3. Now, if you're getting, for example, flaxseed oil or hemp oil, you want to make sure that it is refrigerated and in a dark glass bottle. Because if you're buying your flaxseed oil that is very unstable, guys, it is very easily oxidized, see how dark that glass is, in a cardboard box and is always protected.
Doesn't have to go in the fridge. I think most people tend to put this in a fridge.
Doesn't have to go, just room temperature is fine,
Yeah.
but we always keep ours in the cardboard box. Now, with, as I said, flaxseed oil, you want to make sure that if you're buying ground flaxseed as an oil, that it is still organic, it's cold pressed, it's extra virgin if you can get the highest quality, and it should always be sold in a fridge. And you should always store it in a fridge for a maximum of 2 to 3 months. Because those oils are more prone to becoming oxidized and rancid than, say, olive oil or coconut. That is just super stable, happy, in a clear glass jar.
That's an amazing fat, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing fat. It is such an amazing fat.
So versatile.
The breakdown of it, what it has in it, the antibacterial properties, the flavor,
Yeah.
what you can do with coconut, make yogurt out of it, make kefir out of it, make, wraps
Yeah.
out of 3 ingredients all from coconut. They are just, coconut is one of my favorite foods of all time.
Especially now, now that everybody's really focusing in on this subject,
Of good fats.
there's so many different products. As retailers, we get to see firsthand all of the not always good, but mostly good productions that are coming out, and it's always, a lot of them are based around coconut, and it's very interesting to see like the wraps that we receive from Sweden.
Yeah. We have some very exciting coconut products coming.
Just
Pure coconut, just wraps made out of just coconut, and those we have a version of cornflakes coming that are just made out of coconut. Again, we're having to import them.
And the kids they love them, don't they?
Yeah, I love them.
And that's a good market. That's such a good market because, as you all know, it's very difficult to find foods that replace the inflammatory foods that we all know of, wheat bix and cornflakes, and so that's a big part of our mission is to replace those foods, and the kids are really the go-to for us. If they don't like them, well then, obviously we don't just throw it, but that's quite a telling tale. Kids.
I really wanted to also, while we're talking about fats, talk about fat-soluble nutrients, because fats hold a whole host of nutrients that are, especially this time of year, guys, really important for our health.
So what fats should we be having at this time of year?
Well, nutrients in fats, you will find vitamin E, D, K, omega-3, so A, D, E, and K, and omega-3. Now, vitamin D, as you will all have heard recently, it's been all over the media, is very important for your immune system.
D3?
Vitamin D is locked into all these lovely fats that we have around us. Butter, organic, grass-fed butter, will have vitamin A, very important for your eyes, very important for your skin. Vitamin D, very important for your immune function, very important for bone health. Vitamin E, hugely important antioxidant, particularly for brain health as we get older. Vitamin E helps to, it disarms free radicals in the body. So avocado oil is also a very high source of vitamin E. It's very good for dry skin, for hot flushes, for immune function. It's an antioxidant that we want in our body.
So just eating avocados every day?
Avocados are such a superfood because what they do is they help other fat-soluble nutrients from other foods get into your system. So when you're eating an avocado with eggs and with
Yum.
nut-based crackers and all these other foods. They all work synergistically to help get that fat-soluble nutrient into your body. Now, as I said, long-chain triglycerides stimulate your gallbladder. There's a reason they do this. Gallbladders are where your bile is housed. Bile is the detergent that comes into your duodenum, or the part of your small intestine, and it emulsifies and breaks up.
It extracts.
It takes out the fat soluble nutrients.
Yeah.
And what bile does is it goes along the small intestine, and good gut bacteria then help reabsorb 90% of the bile that we produce and takes it back to the liver.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is amazing. And so this is why gut bacteria is so key, because we have this amazing recycling system. The liver uses cholesterol to make bile. It's housed in the gallbladder, about 50% of it concentrated. It's released when we eat fat. Then it goes in and it absorbs, it helps extract all the fat-soluble nutrients, vitamin D, E, K, omega-3s, and then it's reabsorbed into the body by these good friendly gut bacteria.
So you may think you're eating well and you're eating super healthy, and but you're not really getting the effects of what you're eating. So the results aren't there. And so therefore you may start to stress about this, and
you might think
it's a cascade of issues.
Why am I not guys, it could be as simple as your liver's not functioning. Your bile isn't being pumped out effectively. Your liver is congested from poor diet, from over medication.
Yeah, but now I'm on a good diet. I've changed for the last month. I've been eating really healthy.
Well, it takes a bit of time.
I'm eating my brown bread, and I'm eating.
All right. So when we say healthy diet, ancestral diet, low carbs, allowing the liver to function at its best, and that, guys, hormones are a subject I'm very interested in. I'm doing a lot of work at the moment for some articles on hormones for some media outlets, because hormones are a major issue for everyone, particularly women, perimenopausal and menopausal, because our livers are in such a state that we're not able to absorb excess hormones. We have estrogen dominance, low progesterone, we have inflammatory hormones and anti-inflammatory hormones. Those are out of whack. We have omega-6 and omega-3, those are out of whack.
Yeah.
We have stress hormones that are inflammatory. We live in an inflammatory state, and then we wonder why taking a few supplements won't make the difference. It's a whole host of lifestyle changes we need to adopt, starting with looking after your liver, starting with caring for your adrenals, starting with looking at what fats you're having, reducing your inflammatory fats, your rapeseed oil, your vegetable oils, upping your good fats, reducing your sugars.
Yeah.
It's a whole series of lifestyle changes, and you can up your omega-3s by just supplementing, getting them up so the ratio becomes better. As you reduce grains, you're reducing your omega-6s.
We take 2,000 every day.
Yeah.
Each.
It's
only 2 of these. So every day we take 2,000.
And I notice if I have a day without them,
2,000 milligrams, by the way, not 2,000. Not 2,000.
rattling around. So yes, it's about getting that balance, guys. Inflammation drives chronic illness. It drives neurodegenerative conditions. It drives so many chronic illnesses, from arthritic pains. And if you're wondering if you're low in your essential fatty acids, just ask yourself a few questions. Is my skin dry? Do I get eczema-like symptoms? Do I have a low mood? Do I heal slowly? Am I prone to whatever's going around at the time? Do I feel lethargic? Because omega-3s are involved in almost every system of the body. They're involved in immune function, they're involved in brain function, communication in the brain, they're involved...
Tell them the good story about the hairdresser. Came in with a hangover.
Oh, yeah. Barber. Yeah, he came in, we had a guy come into the store, gosh, about a year or so ago now, and he was shaking. I said, are you okay? And he said, I had a bender of a weekend. I'd been on a stag do all weekend, and now I'm cutting hair this morning and my hands are shaking.
They were literally shaking as well.
And this guy was in his 20s, and he was like, I don't know what is going on. I just feel awful.
But he came in for a coffee.
He did. So I went into my bag and I took out 2 of my fish oils and said, take these. And he went, what? I said, trust me, just take them. So anyway, he took them and he came back at lunchtime to buy his lunch and he said, what did you give me? And I said, I gave you high dose fish oils because when you drink, the DHA is leached out of your brain and you get this jittery, anxious feeling, which is what happens when we're low in this essential fatty acid. And he's like, oh my God, it was like a miracle. I said, yeah, it is a miracle. And most people live in a state of being deficient in this essential fat. So they're always jittery and always feeling on edge and always feeling like some unsettled.
Yeah.
And when you give your brain the fats it needs to thrive, it settles. You get this lighting up of the brain and you get this settling in that anxious, jittery sensation that comes with.
But, back to fats, talking about fats, I know a lot of people still don't understand and they may take away from this thinking, okay, I'm just going to up my fats. What do you say to that? Upping your fats?
Well, it depends what fat you're upping. I eat a lot of fats, but I live off fats. I fuel my body with fats.
So I think the understanding of when you do up your fats, you have to understand that.
You have to reduce your carbs.
You have to
especially
reduce
if you're upping your saturated fats.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, oh, amazing, I'm going to slather on the butter onto my big sourdough loaf. That's not the way, guys. Seed breads, keto breads, yes, awesome.
Yeah.
But also you need to consider your liver function. If you're loading up the saturated fats and you've had a really high carb diet for 40 years, your liver function's not going to be at its best.
Yeah.
I don't like these diets where you just have 70-80% fat and you have lard and butter, and we need to look at fats as a source of fuel. We want to be metabolically flexible. What that means is we can use the fat on our plate and then we use the fat on our body. So we eat some fat from our food, then our body goes, ooh, I've used that fat, now I'm going to use the fat on me. Because most of us, let's be fair, have a bit of spare fat going to use. So we can use that fat, we can use this fat. If we have a bit of sweet potato and we have some glucose, we can mop that up quickly because we have great insulin sensitivity. So we adopt this state of being very flexible, metabolically flexible. And that doesn't just mean being fat burners and in ketosis, because we can all force ourselves into ketosis, but this means that we are flexible enough to be able to switch from fat burning, from eating the fat on our plate, to fat burning our body, to using glucose effectively, mopping that up and then switching back to fats. It's a state of being that we can adopt and adapt to our surroundings.
So you're going down the roads of being a fat burner.
Yeah.
Versus being a sugar burner.
Adopting a true fat burning status, which means that as humans, we're genius. We are incredibly flexible to our environment and to our circumstances, which is why we've evolved so highly and we can survive the harshest of conditions. But we are feeding ourselves in such a way that we are training ourselves to not be metabolically flexible and to not be able to adapt to our surroundings. We are feeding our bodies fuel that it becomes reliant upon, i.e. sugar, glucose, carbohydrates, fructose. And our body is demanding it all the time because we need to go back to factory setting, which is fat burning.
Yeah.
As babies, we're fat burners.
Yeah.
Because the breast milk is ketogenic.
Yeah.
But then we train ourselves to become sugar burners, and that's when we get sick, chronically sick and inflamed.
That starts at an early age too,
Starts at baby rice. What is baby rice? My baby started
rice.
on avocados, and I was adamant that that's the way they would.
Or granny, how grannies always feed the small kids on the sweets. It starts at such an early age. The addiction starts so early.
Yeah,
and before you know it, you've actually traded in your fat for sugar.
It's not just about what we feed them, though. It's what we're teaching them. And this is where the kids come home from school and they're talking about how bad fat is. And ours luckily understand, but they have exams and they're like, I need to say what causes cardiovascular disease. And
oh yeah, so Austin came home and what did he say?
He said, do I put the right answer or do I put the answer they want me to put? And I was like, Austin, you need to figure that out. And he went, well, I'm going to put what they think is the right answer, which is fat. But mummy, I know fat's not bad.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even what type of fat or deep fat fried foods. Or
it was a blanket question.
It's just fat. Fat is bad for you.
Yeah.
So we need to be very mindful of of how we're educating our children,
I've
ourselves.
always thought that funny, because if fat's the bad person here, we're made up of fat.
We are absolutely made up of fat. We need fat. Our brain is 80% fat. Our cells are made of fat. Our hormones need fat. You need fat to make testosterone. You need cholesterol to make testosterone. Yeah. I need fat to make my sex hormones. If we don't have fat in our diet, we will not make hormones. Our immune system needs fat. Did you know that omega-3s are like a magnet? They draw oxygen to a place. So they're like a magnet drawing little metal filings to wherever you have that omega-3 present. And oxygen is absolutely key for all sorts of functioning in the body. But, I mean, again, this is going down a slightly different route, but in a Petri dish, there's an amazing scientist who won a Nobel Prize for his research into this. He was able to, at will, create cancerous cells through depriving them of 30% oxygen. Because at one point, scientists thought that oxygen drove cancer. They now recognise that it's glucose that drives cancer. Sugar. Hence, cancer cells having 10 times more insulin receptors on their cell membrane than regular cells. So they now know it's glucose that drives cancer, but at one point they thought it was oxygen. But when you deprive a cell of oxygen at will in a Petri dish, this is done not in vivo but in vitro, you can at will create cancer cells, which is, I think, is fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah.
Back to fat.
Back to fat. So fats are healing. Omega-3s, they draw oxygen to an area. They're anti-inflammatory. They're very, very important, as are omega-6 in balance, 1-to-1 ratio. Yeah. Those are your essential fatty acids. Omega-3 rich foods are cold water fish, salmon, mackerel, tuna, you have sardines, anchovies. Then you have grass-fed organic eggs are a good source of omega-3. Algae oil if you're a vegan or a vegetarian. Then you have your omega-6s, healthy omega-6 coming from olive oil, avocado oil. You have the other oils like macadamia nuts, which will give you omega-9, which again is another omega fat, which is very good for you. Omega-7, which comes from things like sea buckthorn. Again, very important for dry eyes and internal dryness. So there are different fats for different functions, but fundamentally we need fats. All varieties fats from our healthy group: coconut, ghee, butter, extra virgin organic cold pressed oils in dark glass kept in the cupboard or the fridge, and then keeping our inflammatory fats at bay, reducing your omega-6s from grains and sunflower oil and vegetable oils and rapeseed oil, and then absolutely the trans fats and hydrogenated fats from margarine and man-made fats, processed food, deep fat fried food, and highly, shelf stable foods that you find like croissants and baked goods and things on shelves that seem to last forever. And what kind of weird wizardry is that? I don't know.
So you don't want people to go out and start looking at, going to the extreme and doing maybe the Atkins diet.
No. I mean, the Atkins diet is just a high protein diet. Really, healthy diets revolve around getting enough fat to fuel you. How much fat do you need? I mean, I know in my world how much fat I need.
Well, I take about maybe that much of butter.
Yeah.
Every day in my coffee.
So it's about your age, how well your liver functions. I take about 25% of my plate is fat.
40 grams.
So avocado mayonnaise and eggs and fatty fish and...
We have a lot of fat in our diet. Our fat is always consistent. Our food is always consistent of different fats. Fat drinks in the morning. A lot of fat in our lunch.
Yeah, there's about 25%, I would say. So you have your fatty protein. You never want lean protein, fatty protein. So your fatty fish or your fatty meats.
Yeah.
Eggs, for example. Egg yolks are a super source of great fats. Avocado mayonnaise. And then 50% of your plate being sauerkraut and vegetables. And salad and greens, sauteed greens, kale, spinach. Get your phytonutrients in there. So it's a balance. You're not just loading up your plate with fat. Remember guys, you want your body to burn its own fat as well as the fat on your plate.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be just loading up more and more and more fat. Get a mixture, get good fats and use avocado oil, olive oil. Use,
seeing it as fuel.
See it as fuel.
Yeah.
And see it as a fuel that's really, the fat you eat is the fat your body will use to make you. It'll make your brain cells, it'll make your membranes. So if you're using poor quality
Margarine.
If you're using margarine and crappy fats in your diet, your cells are going to be vulnerable to becoming damaged from free radicals because you're not getting that flexible, healthy membrane around your cells. Your body will use the fats that it's given from deep fat fried
Unstable.
food or rancid fats. So
yeah.
I think we can wrap up fats there, Gaz, don't you? Do you know, I have to say I did have another type of fat to demonstrate here, which is a saturated fat with cocoa butter, or cacao butter in this case, and it...
Oh my god, you ate the whole thing.
I ate it before we even started. I love a bit of dark on bar.
Yeah, I normally I do as well, but it's all gone.
Snooze, you lose.
I snoozed.
Well, guys, I hope that's been really helpful and useful to you. Let me just quickly...
questions there.
Let's just shuffle down. I'll let you do that, guys.
Oh, nice hair. Yeah.
Keep going down. I think we have one from Elaine.
Eating.
So much green. I'm not going to have to watch this a couple of times. Yes. There is some... I know there's a lot of information in here, Elaine, and don't worry about getting overwhelmed or feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get this right. This is about just starting to get the fundamentals and getting some understanding of, well, what in my diet am I not quite getting right, or what can I just progress and improve on slightly if I'm getting aches and pains, if I'm getting symptoms that aren't quite working, if my hormones are tweaking and peaking and not as I want them to be at the moment. What small changes that can happen week on week? What am I looking at in my cupboard? What am I looking at in my fridge? Do I need to make a few alterations?
It takes time.
It does take time. It really does. Don't give yourselves a hard time. It takes time.
It's like a muscle, You can't just get weight and work out for a couple of days and expect to have a six-pack, or it just takes so. It's having patience. And lowering the expectation too, I think, is quite important, and just allowing this to organically happen.
Yeah.
Don't expect so much, because you put expectations on it, and then you're waiting for it, and then you start stressing about the results not being how you expect it to be. It takes time.
It does take time, and we've been brainwashed almost by food manufacturers and governments to believe that
our parents have been brainwashed.
Vegetable oil is good for us.
They're still brainwashed.
Eating certain oils, certain oils are good for us. But as you start to understand that butter is a healthy fat, it contains lots of goodness, and not having your sourdough, but having lower carb alternatives to pasta.
Just make sure that for butter, for example, make sure the butter is grass-fed. So important. Not grain-fed. I mean, there's so many delicious butters out there, but they aren't always the same.
There's a really, really good documentary, guys, if you haven't seen it already, on Netflix, called Kiss the Ground. Yeah. Fascinating. Doesn't talk that much about the health aspect of grass-feeding animals, but it talks a lot about the environmental impact, and how when animals are grass-fed, it draws down carbon out of the atmosphere, because of this very important aspect of grass growing and using up a lot of carbon. So, watch it. It is fascinating. And if we actually reverted back to traditional grass-fed farming, how our environment... I did read a statistic years ago that it would, within 15 years, we would have removed all of the carbon that we've managed to pump out into the environment.
Yeah, they had a really nice part there where they showed the effects of commercial versus grass feeding.
Yeah, it's so different. And the importance of you guys making those choices when it comes to being a responsible shopper. And
Yeah.
us as responsible retailers looking further up the chain, looking at how people are, you know, where the olives are coming from, what's this company like, looking at where
But the butter, I mean, we love. I mean, this is
that
the.
company is amazing.
It's an amazing company. They make it old school.
Wooden churner
Wooden churner. The product itself speaks for
does,
itself.
when you try it, and I know a lot of you guys have already. And this is where I think, again, it's like Marie Kondoing your house. You do the same to your fridge and your cupboard, and you have those 5-6 key products that you love and you love eating and you appreciate, and you don't want to waste any of them, and they become like your prized possessions.
Yeah.
And I feel that way about all of the gorgeous foods. This is one of my favorite foods, this tomato paste. It is made with olive oil, not sunflower oil. This company are incredibly ethical.
Yeah.
They produce things the very traditional way, and the taste is insanely good. So I love thinking about the production of my food and how we're adding to traditional farming and traditional food producing techniques when we choose to stock and sell certain key and beautiful products.
We
So-
love all these products, actually. Oh, this? I mean, this? You don't need anything else. All you need is a spoon and this. And oh my god, you don't need anything else.
You need a
And
sofa, a spoon,
and a
and
movie.
and a good documentary.
That is incredible.
I'm ashamed to say how much macadamia nut oil I get through.
I'm not.
That
I'm
butter
not.
is just, yeah.
The chocolate one, I mean, the chocolate version of that is
That's
just,
yours, isn't it? This is my little favourite. That and the
Like, I'll eat a whole jar in one sitting. Yeah, I'm not ashamed of it. Well, I mean, it's only 170 grams.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for you.
Anyway,
Guys, we better go because we're coming up to an hour. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you for live keto cookery on Friday. And yeah, if you want to learn more about this way of life, and you know you're just beginning, buy the copy of our book Primal Living in a Modern World. It is currently on offer with wherever those fish oils are. Package of this and the book for $33.95. It is the best deal we've ever done. This is the best offering we can give you guys to start you on your health journey.
thanks to
Wiley's.
Wiley's.
They've been incredibly supportive,
Yeah.
and we think it's a baptism of fire onto a new health way of living. Your anti-inflammatory fats, and your fish oils. Anyway, guys, I think this is the computer telling us we're running out of time. Have a great day and enjoy some of the sunshine. Bye, guys.